Welcome to the I Am One podcast, where we talk to perinatal mental health advocates, professionals, and educators supporting the mission of Postpartum Support International. We're not afraid to ask our guests about the hardest parts of pregnancy and postpartum because we know that PSI has tools and resources to help in every situation, and everyone should know about them.
Whether you are among the 1 in 5 moms, 1 in 10 dads, one of many trans or non-binary parents, or you're one professional or advocate committed to helping folks in need, you are also one of us.
I'm your host, Danny Giddens, and I am 1 in 5. I didn't know what to call what I was experiencing after becoming a parent and felt too scared at the time to speak up.
Not anymore. Now she won't stop talking about it. Hi, I'm your co-host, Emily Jankowski. I'm also 1 in 5, and I want you to know that mental health complications are common, but they aren't normal.
There's something powerful in knowing I am one of many. Whether you're already connected to the perinatal mental health world, looking for new ways to support parents and families, or just want to hang out with us in your earbuds, we are so glad that you tuned in.
Of course they want to hang out with us. We're lovely. Seriously, though, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this pod are the speaker's own. Tuning into this podcast is, spoiler alert, not a replacement for therapy, but PSI can help you find a therapist. We could also help you find a psychiatrist, a support group, or Waldo.
Emily, Waldo? Come on! We don't know where Waldo is.
Okay, fine. PSI help seekers can find peer support and resources in their area.
At PSI, we want you to know you are not alone, you are not to blame, and with help, you will be well. On today's episode, we're sitting down with our fabulous friend, Courtney Ginder, who works at PSI on the communications team and who first came onto our radar as a volunteer in the Climb program. We'll hear all about how the pandemic impacted her entry into parenthood, how access to care and prompt support from her providers got her on the quick road to recovery, and oh my goodness, please do yourself a favor and listen all the way through to the lightning round when Courtney shares what she wishes she could say to her newly postpartum self. It's a tearjerker, the good kind, don't worry. So without any further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode with our friend Courtney. Courtney, welcome to the podcast studio, friend.
Hi.
Hi, we're so happy to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
Oh my goodness, you were among the first people to sign up to be a guest on the podcast. But we waited a hot minute because you had another baby.
Yeah, we made you wait. Sorry.
Baby number 2 is Earthside, and we are excited to check in with you and talk about all the things. So thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
I think if we're ready to just jump right in, could you give us a little bit of an intro to who you are?
All right. So I'm Courtney. I live in a suburb just north of Indianapolis. I have a daughter who was born in 2020, so she's almost 4. I don't know how this happened.
No, I know.
It's insane. And then my son was born in August, so he just turned 6 months.
August 2023.
So that is a little bit about me.
Excellent.
Cool. Emily, are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Okay. I'm thinking that you're here because perinatal mental health complications have somehow impacted your personal life.
You might be accurate, yes.
Yeah. Tell us more.
Right. So if you heard, I mentioned that my daughter was born in 2020 and she's almost 4, which might start some little alarm bells going off in your brains here.
Yes.
Because
Oh, yeah.
March 2020 was when everything went upside down.
Yeah, it did.
Because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So my daughter was born approximately 3 weeks before Indiana went into lockdown. Actually, about a couple weeks after she was born, the first case of COVID in Indiana was identified at the hospital I delivered at.
Wow.
So everyone was like, "Are you okay? Do you have COVID?" I'm like, "We've been home for like 2 weeks, guys." Like,
I don't think it works like that.
When we were first-time parents, our daughter's our oldest, and we went from having a lot of help. Like my parents stayed with us that first week after we brought her home, which was so nice because even to this day, she still doesn't like to sleep. So it was so nice to have my parents there to help, hold her, keep her content while we could sleep.
Yeah.
My father-in-law stopped by with breakfast every morning. We just had so much help and support. And then in just the span of a week, it all just dissipated.
Like record scratch.
Yes. My parents are pharmacists, so they were literally on the front lines. My father-in-law was managing a grocery store at the time, and my mother-in-law was HR for a manufacturing company. All of them were essential workers.
Right.
All of them were interacting with the public. So
wow.
we went from having all of this help, and we have this huge village. We're only about 20 minutes away at the most from all of our parents. And then we had no one, just out of nowhere. And on top of that, my daughter developed colic and reflux.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. So on top of being first-time parents to a 3-week-old, suddenly thrust into this global pandemic with a virus that we don't know what it does, how it impacts infants, how it impacts newborns. We know absolutely nothing about this. And now my daughter has colic and reflux, and we are all by ourselves. So is it any wonder I developed postpartum depression?
No, that's a lot of risk factors.
I am shocked. Just kidding. I am not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So, I mean, and I also have a history of mood disorders and anxiety. So, I mean, I was already like, I might be a little bit more high risk than the others. Should probably keep an eye on that. And then it all went sideways.
Yeah, for sure.
So pre-pregnancy, here's a question. Pre-pregnancy, did you have much knowledge of perinatal mental health disorders?
Not really. I only knew about postpartum depression. And I remember, I mean, like they tell you, in the hospital, like, oh, you might have the baby blues. You might be sad. You might experience mood swings, but it goes away after 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of sad. I kind of cry all the time. Like, whatever. They said this is normal. But my impression of postpartum depression was that you had postpartum depression if you cried all the time and you wanted to hurt yourself or your baby. And I was like, well, I'm crying, but I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt my baby. So therefore, I do not have postpartum depression and I'm fine.
This is my life now.
Yeah, that was the extent of my knowledge of perinatal mental health disorders. I didn't know there was anxiety. I didn't know there was OCD. I didn't know there were all of these other complications.
Right.
What did this perfect storm of COVID and like your village being unavailable very suddenly all do for you? Like, did you have anxiety symptoms? Did you have OCD symptoms? Give us the scoop.
So I've always thought that I struggled with general anxiety disorder. My therapist figured out, like in between my kids, so probably like 2 years ago, we figured out like, no, actually you probably have OCD. It is not normal to wake up from a dead sleep at midnight and go frantically check all the locks in your house because you thought you left them unlocked.
Like you wouldn't be able to fall back asleep until you.
Yes, I would lay in bed and just be like, did I lock the door? Did I lock the door? Did I lock the door? I don't know if I locked the door.
I think I'm going to go check all of them.
Yes, I have to go check all of them. And I'm going to go look out my front window here that I'm sitting next to and make sure that I can't see the garage light on the driveway to make sure the garage door's shut. And she's like, those are actually not normal anxiety thoughts. Like,
or they would be normal thoughts if you could then be like, okay, away. I'm okay. Like,
yes,
I'll go back to sleep. But like they were like impacting daily.
Totally. Getting in the way of the thing you're trying to be doing. Okay.
I had experienced anxiety before, so I did have a lot of anxiety. I mean, my husband would go pick up groceries and I would make him go straight upstairs, change clothes, shower before he even held my daughter again. And then while he's showering, I am frantically wiping down every single surface that he touched. So doorknob, stair rail, all of it. Because again, we also didn't know how COVID was spread at this point.
Yeah, that was a very scary.
And so like I would dump out all the groceries like in the far corner of our kitchen and just go over everything with disinfecting wipes. I was like, what if it's living on the groceries? So I definitely had anxiety symptoms. And then the depression worked its way in because now she cries all the time. She cries constantly for no apparent reason whatsoever. And I remember we asked our pediatrician, I remember very vividly one of her first well checkup appointments. I was like, how fussy is too fussy? Like, is this normal?
That's a really good question though.
Yeah.
Like an important and good question to ask.
Yes. I was like, I feel like she cries all the time. Like, is this normal? And he was like, a lot of babies go through, they call it the witching hour, where, in the evening, they just get real fussy and unconsolable for no apparent reason.
And you're like, I said all the time, not 1 hour a day, my friend.
Right. It's all the time. So, I mean, in my mind, it's like your main goal as a mother is to console your children, to take care of your babies, to make them feel better, to make them stop crying. And I can't do that because she cries all the time. So clearly there is something wrong with me. There is something wrong with the way I'm parenting her. And clearly I'm failing at this because she cries all the time. Those are the kind of thoughts that I was having was, I've made a mistake. I'm failing at this. I'm a bad mom. What kind of mother can't even console her own baby? You know, that sort of thing. So that's kind of where the depression part kicked in. I was just feeling like an absolute failure.
And were those thoughts that you kept to yourself? Did you say them out loud in front of your partner?
Most of them I kept to myself, but I mean, my husband and I have been together since we were seniors in high school, so he knows me very, very well.
Okay. So like, even without saying something, could he tell?
Yes.
Could he read your body language? Okay.
Yes. And I'm one of those people that you can tell exactly what I'm seeing, like thinking from my face.
Yeah. Like, Courtney, your face is still turned on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So he could tell something was not right. And I had tried to breastfeed her and it didn't work out very well. Like, even though they checked at the hospital, they're like, oh, your latch is perfect. She looks great. I'm like, yeah, but it hurts like hell.
Yeah.
I only made it like 3 days breastfeeding because there was one middle of the night feeding where I just cried through the whole feeding because it hurt so bad. And my husband was just like, nope, not worth it. We're not doing this. This is not like, nope, we're switching to formula.
Did you feel supported in that? Like, were you ready to be given permission to be done?
Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
He understood the assignment. Okay.
Yes. I was feeling guilty because I was just like, I don't like this. This is not this magical bonding experience that I was told it would be. Like, this hurts. I don't want to. But, you're told like, this is the best for your baby. You should breastfeed. It'll be a great bonding experience and all of this. And I was just like, this is terrible. I do not like this. But I didn't want to give up because you hear that over and over and over again, that this is the best thing for your baby. And my husband reminded me, he was just like, you were breastfed. I was formula fed. You can't tell now that we're in our 30s. Like,
we both really like chicken nuggets. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. So I had been feeling guilty about wanting to quit. And when he was finally just like, no, this is not worth it, that was helpful for me to be like, yeah, we can go get that little tub of formula that's in the cabinet and fix her a bottle.
Awesome.
And how'd you feel once you made that decision?
That felt better, especially because we were able to divide those nighttime feedings.
Yeah.
And alternate. And he was waking up with me and like, he would wait until she was done and he would take her and burp her and put her back to sleep and that sort of thing. So we were both up at the same time. But then once we switched to formula, we could alternate those and somebody would get up with her, right? She would wake up at like 1 and 4, I think, were her overnight times when she would wake up. So one of us would get up with her at 1, the other one would get up with her at 4. And that way we could at least kind of get decent chunks of sleep.
Yes.
Yeah. Like a good 3-6 hours, depending on when you went to bed. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yes.
That's awesome.
That was immensely helpful. And even at the very beginning, like when I was feeling guilty about not liking breastfeeding, he's like, will you please text your therapist? Will you please text your therapist? And I was like, no, I'm fine. It's the baby blues. They told us about this at the hospital. I'm fine. It's the hormones. I'll be okay. So even like 3 or 4 days postpartum, he was like, can you text her, please? Can you text her?
So you had already been seeing a therapist regularly before giving birth. Okay.
Interesting. Cool. Is that part of what getting help looked like? Like, once you realized I'm outside of what feels normal or okay for me? Like,
so my breaking point was I had woken up, the house we were living in at the time, like our bedroom was here. There was a loft area where my husband was working because he'd been sent to work from home indefinitely because COVID.
Oh, right.
So he's in the loft working, and then our laundry room is right here on the other side of this loft. So I had gotten up, she was still asleep in her bassinet, and I was like, I'm going to do some laundry because, again, reflux, like all of you are changing outfits multiple times a day because you're just covered in spit up all the time.
I had a friend whose reflux baby, she, instead of using a burp cloth, used a beach towel.
Yep. Thought about that. Yep. There were a few times I had like one of those big washcloths or a towel. Yeah. Because you just end up soaked in spit up all the time. So I was like, I'm going to do some laundry. I'll get caught up on some of that, So I'm in the laundry room. My husband's sitting right here at the desk. Our bedroom's over here. Mm-hmm. I hear her start crying in the bedroom. And I just leaned up against the washing machine and just started sobbing. And he's sitting at the desk and he's like, what are you are you okay? And all I could say was, I can't do this. I can't do it anymore. Because she cried all the time.
Yeah.
And so hearing her start to wake up and start to cry, it broke me.
That's what I was just going to ask. So like the societal messaging is the baby cries. You as the parent on duty in that moment is supposed to go and attend.
Mm-hmm.
But you, like your emotional reaction or your body's reaction was like, I would like to remain here in the laundry room. No, thank you. I'm done right now.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the crying, was that like the guilt? Was that what was happening?
I think it was just the complete overwhelm and because at this point I was about 5 weeks postpartum. I had been feeling like this for like 5 weeks and dealing with these feelings for 5 weeks. And I think at that point it was I just felt completely and utterly, I can't do it anymore. We are on call 24/7. We are getting no breaks. Our baby screams all the time. Like, I can't do it anymore. And he immediately like sent off an email to his boss. He's like, I'm taking a new parent leave day, like signing off right now. And he went and got her and he was like, you lay down, turn on the sound machine, sleep. So you cannot hear us, like go sleep. Oh. I slept for several hours. And when I woke up, he's like, will you please text your therapist or call your doctor? Like, for the love of God, please. And at the time I was like, you know what? I was like, my 6-week appointment is next week. I will make it until then. And then here's another fun COVID fact. Did you know that if you're in the middle of a new pandemic, your hospital will call you and tell you that your postpartum appointment has been changed to virtual?
Oh, no.
So you knew that this appointment was coming up. You were like, I'm going to get to see somebody in person.
I'm going to get out of the house. I'm going to see my OB. I absolutely adore my OB. I wish I could have her for all of my medical things. Absolutely adore her. I was like, I'm going to go see my doctor. I'm going to get out of the house. It's going to be just about me, because any other thing that I had gotten out of the house for up until that point was to take our daughter to the pediatrician. It was all about her. So I was like, I am going to get out. I'm going to go see my doctor. I love my doctor. We're going to talk about this. She knows that I have a history of, mental health problems. We're going to get through this. Right. And then they called me and they were like, your appointment's been changed to a phone visit.
Oh, no. The rug was pulled right out from underneath.
Yes. It was like that one thread to the outside world was just snip, gone.
Yep.
And I was on the phone with that poor receptionist for probably 20 minutes, coming up with all of these different reasons why she had to let me come into the office. I was just like, I have stitches. You need to check my stitches. I don't know what I'm looking at. I haven't looked down there yet. Like, you have to check my stitches.
I have no idea what's happening.
She was like, no, you have this dissolving stitches. If you're not experiencing pain, you should be fine. And I was like, okay. I was like, I want the arm implant birth control. I don't want to go back on the pill. I want the arm implant. You have to let me in because that's my birth control. And she's like, nope, the health department classified that as an optional procedure and we're not doing those right now. And I was just like, please let me come see my doctor.
Listen, lady.
They were just like, no, we're not seeing postpartum women in the office right now.
Oh my God. Okay. So that rug getting pulled out from underneath you, did that prevent you from then saying what you were experiencing in that moment when you got on the phone?
When I talked to her, she just asked, how are you doing? How are things going? And it was like the floodgates just opened. I was like, I am not okay. I was like,
good.
I was like, I feel terrible. I am not okay. I feel like a failure. I am crying all the time. I am anxious. Like, they didn't even run the Edinburgh scale on me. They were just like, you sound like you have postpartum depression. We're going to get off the phone. I'm going to call your primary care physician, because they're in the same network. They're actually in the same building most days out of the week. Just my primary care physician on the second floor. My OB is on the third. She's like, we're going to call your other doctor. They're going to get you set up with an appointment like tomorrow. I'm going to tell them to call you and set up an appointment tomorrow. And we're going to get you help.
Wow.
It was that
dream team.
Fast.
Were these people already trained by PSI? They sound like they know what they're doing.
I'm not sure, but I adore her. And when I talked to my primary care physician the next day, it wasn't the Edinburgh scale, but they ran a different anxiety and depression scale on me. And she was like, yep, you have depression, you have anxiety, you scored high on both those. We're going to get you on Lexapro. It's going to take like a couple weeks to fill up and, to reach therapeutic levels in your system, but it's real easy to get on and off of. So she was like, if it doesn't work, it's really easy for you to come off of it for us to try something else.
Had you been on medication before?
I had. It wasn't Lexapro. I was on buspirone for anxiety.
Oh, okay.
But she was like, we're going to take you off the buspirone. We're going to just put you straight on the Lexapro. We'll have a follow-up appointment in like 3 weeks because that should give you enough time to build that up to therapeutic levels in your system. And then we can assess if it's actually working or not. We're going to get you taken care of. We're going to be like, you're going to be okay. And actually that week I got an email from my therapist practice that was like, we're switching to telehealth for the pandemic. So I was able to text her and be like, can I see you?
Click.
Emergency.
Schedule now.
Confirm appointment.
I have told my stories on training panels for PSI. I have told my story on other podcasts. This is the part where I always say that I'm lucky. I am so lucky because I told my providers, this is how I'm feeling. I already had a therapist that I was just off her schedule for a few weeks, and I was able to get right back on it. They heard me. They heard that I was not doing well, and they were like, you know what? This is okay. We're going to get you help. We're going to get you better. And I know that there are so many moms that don't get that. And I mean, even in the pandemic, like all these appointments got changed to virtual. All these appointments got changed to phone calls.
Right. And you can't read body language that way. Yes.
How easily can you put on your, your customer service voice and be like, I'm totally fine. Everything's great, because you're not in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
That's the part I always say that I was just so lucky because I mean, even in a pandemic, I did not fall through the cracks. I got help. I got better.
Yeah.
How did it feel to hear your therapist or anybody on your medical team telling you, we're going to help you and you're going to get better? Like, was it like, okay, I know it's going to take a couple weeks for the meds to kick in, but did that kind of help get you to the point, like, did you believed them when they said that?
They didn't say like, oh, this is normal, but she was like, this happens a lot. Like, you are not the only person that this happens to, and you can get better. You're not broken. You're not completely, this didn't destroy you. You're going to get better.
Jen Hamilton has this phrase that she often uses, which is like, it's not normal, but it is common.
Yes.
And I feel like that's like so validating.
Yes.
That it's, if we say it's normal, that means that like it doesn't need to be fixed, right?
Right.
Like, but it does. We all deserve to feel okay and like that we can get through day-to-day stuff, and that when we get overwhelmed, it doesn't feel like the whole world is caving in. Like it just feels like I'm really overwhelmed right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when the medication kicked in, was like, for one thing, it felt like the world had color again. Like I vividly remember when it kicked in, because I was just like, oh, it doesn't feel gray and sad and like gloomy anymore. Like it feels like my world has color in it again. And it was also, yes, she's still crying. It didn't solve the colic. That took about, unfortunately, 5 months to go away.
Sometimes those little stomach sphincters are just like not ready for the world yet. Yeah.
And I'd say all the time, she did not like being a baby. Like the things that make her an amazing preschooler right now made her a very difficult baby. She did not like being a baby.
0 stars.
Every physical milestone where she could like sit up by herself and she could pull herself around and she could crawl and she could pull herself up. Her mood just got infinitely better. So and even to this day, she is very much an I'll do it myself, like, independent. She didn't like being a baby. I think that's all there was to it.
I mean, to be fair, you didn't really like her being a baby either.
But I felt like I could handle her colic. I felt like I could handle it again.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was like suddenly the tools that probably had been there the whole time were like accessible again to you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, throughout the process of becoming a mom, experiencing postpartum depression, getting help, when and how did you learn about PSI? Was it like during that process of like learning a little bit more? Did you know about PSI before you became a parent?
I did not know about PSI before I became a parent. And actually, I am not that far from Birdie Gunyon-Meyer.
Shout out to Birdie.
I know. I love Birdie. Hi, Birdie. I love you. And she lives on the west side of Indianapolis. So like whenever I do my panels with Birdie, we always talk about how like she was right there. She was like 30 minutes from me. And I did not know she was there.
Yeah.
So I had not heard of PSI before, but actually I was just scrolling through social media, and somehow this was like December of 2020. I was still seeing my therapist. I still see my therapist every week. And I'm still on my Lexapro because I have a history of mood and anxiety disorders. So we're just going to keep doing that because it works. And
exactly.
I was just scrolling through my social, and I don't know how I found it, but I found a video about the Climb Out of the Darkness and how they were recruiting for the 2021 climb season. And I was like, I have helped with the Walk to End Alzheimer's before. I was very involved with the Alzheimer's Association and the Walk to End Alzheimer's before I became a mom. So I was like, I have helped plan these things. I can do this. And so I was like, I want to be a climb leader. And that's how I became a climb leader for Team Hamilton County and Team Indianapolis. So that was my introduction to PSI, was through the climb.
Excellent.
The climb and PSI. I love that. I love that for us.
So if you're listening and you're like, I don't get it, Danny and I, who are the co-hosts, the podcast is like our side gig. Running the climb program is our main gig.
Yes.
So when we get to interview climb leaders and talk about sort of their journey, it's like a little bit of a full circle moment for us. So
I wouldn't be on this podcast right now if it wasn't for the climb. I wouldn't be involved with PSI if it wasn't for the climb. So.
Jinx.
It's true though.
We will, and that about wraps it up for today. Because we're gonna go cry happy tears. I'm kidding. No, we will drop a link to all things climb in the show notes, so folks can check it out if you're interested in doing some really awesome advocacy work in your community.
Awesome.
Well, we're glad that you found PSI, Courtney. So you started volunteering with the climb. And what else? What else do you do?
Yeah, tell us.
What else are you up to?
Right. So through the climb, through my climb co-leader, her name is Megan, and we led 2 climbs together. And then I took a step back this past year because I had another baby.
We call that good self-care.
Yes. But she was on the board of directors for the Indiana chapter of PSI. And they were recruiting a social media person. I was like, well, I've done social media before. I'm going to apply for that. I filled out the application. They voted me on. So now I'm on the board of directors for PSI Indiana. So if you follow PSI Indiana on Instagram or Facebook, that is me.
We love your work.
Well, thank you. Love me enough that when PSI's social media manager went on maternity leave, I got recruited to fill in for her, and I stuck around. So I still do social media for PSI. And during this time, I just felt like I was being called to do more, because I remembered when I was nap trapped with my daughter, because if you remember earlier, I mentioned she doesn't like to sleep. She contact napped until she was about 10 months old.
Oh, wow.
My oldest was like that too.
Yes. I spent a lot of time nap trapped. And so I would be scrolling through like Instagram, Facebook, and I was searching through hashtags like hashtag postpartum depression, hashtag PPD. Because I wanted to know if what I was feeling was real, or if this was just something that only I was experiencing. So I remember doing that, and I was like, I want to be that person that reassures that other mom somewhere out in the world, somewhere out in the rest of the world, that is doing the same thing. She's not broken, that she is okay, and that she can get better. And that is how I came up with the idea for my personal blog and my other social media passion project, which is Beyond Postpartum Depression. And I've been growing that Instagram account for about a year and a half, something like that. But just trying to show other moms that they are not alone, and that there are a lot of other people that feel the way they do, that your scary thoughts are just thoughts. They're not you. Like, you are not a bad mom. You are not a failure. You didn't make a mistake.
Yes.
And if you're feeling this way, there's help out there, and you can get better. Because I realized that my experience getting help was the exception and not the rule. And I would really, really love for other moms where I don't have to feel lucky that I got help, that it shouldn't be a stroke of luck that you get better and you get help. It should be
the standard.
It should be the standard. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important work that you're doing, Courtney, and you're you're totally showing people that it's okay to talk about the things that feel really big and maybe sometimes scary. Because I was one of those moms that was afraid to say the things that I was thinking and feeling, but I just needed an example from somebody, and you are that example. So thank you for doing this great work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are we ready for a lightning round? Did we cover all the things? We know you work for PSI. You volunteered for PSI. You love Birdie. We all do. That's check.
Yes.
And your help seeking was really unique in that, like, once you said it, it was like your team mobilized to like make the things happen.
Yes.
So now we need to find out all the other side details about you.
Okay.
This is good investigative journalism. I like
That's
it.
right. We're going to get into the hard-hitting questions.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun. Courtney, are you ready for a lightning round?
All right. I think so.
Okay. Besides this podcast, what is your second favorite podcast?
Mom in Mind.
Okay.
Check.
Hey, Kat. How's it going?
I remember when I was first getting on with PSI Indiana, they were like, we were trying to compile a list of like resources and books and things to like share with other moms. And one of the other board members mentioned Mom in Mind. And I started listening to that. And I was actually on her podcast last year.
You were.
Yeah, check it out. We'll drop a link to that.
Yes. And when I got the email that they wanted me on, I about fell out of my chair because I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to be on Mom in Mind.
Yes.
We also have a crush on Mom in Mind. We have a podcast crush.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if we're saying what's real. Hey, Kat, we have a crush on your podcast. It's good stuff.
It's true. It's true. Okay, so what are you binge watching or binge listening to? Anything good? I'm always looking for a new like Netflix and chill kind of movie.
I am catching up on The Crown.
Oh, yeah.
Because I am obsessed with the British royals.
Okay.
It started in high school. Like I took a class in high school and they talked about Henry VIII and like all of his 6 wives. And I have been obsessed with the British royal family ever since.
You were like, these people are kind of weird. Like, I mean, Henry VIII particularly.
Yes.
Very eccentric.
So I'm getting caught up on The Crown because, again, I have 2 small children. So most of my TV watching right now is either Bluey or Paw Patrol. So I am catching up on the last season of The Crown. I am a bit behind because most of my time is taken up by cartoon dogs. So
that's amazing.
Courtney, the next hard-hitting question is, what is your best parenting hack?
My best parenting hack. Well, the ultimate parenting hack is to live near your parents because then you can just drop your kids off with them.
Bye.
Actually,
see you later.
We did this fairly recently. God love my parents. They're amazing. I have been caught in the cycle of sickness with my 2 young children in daycare.
Oh, no.
And we had just gotten my son over a respiratory infection. And we're driving home from daycare and my daughter goes, my tummy hurts, and just starts throwing up. And I'm just like, Lord help me. And so we called my parents and we were like, what you doing tonight? Because we had just gotten my son has been in the hospital twice for RSV. So we had just gotten him out of the hospital. And I was like, I cannot handle a stomach virus at my house right now. I cannot handle if he gets a stomach virus. Can't handle it.
Are you cool with a stomach virus coming to your house?
Right?
Asking for a friend.
They took my pukey child, no questions asked, and kept her for 2 days to make sure that it did not spread to the rest of our house. Like, they're amazing.
Now, not every set of parents or in-laws would do something like this. Like, is this because they're just like pharmacists and so they're hardcore and they like know stuff? Or are they just like unicorn humans? I don't understand.
They're just unicorn humans, to be perfectly honest.
Wow.
I was like, you're sure you're okay with us bringing our probably norovirus-riddled child into your house? And they were like, we're exposed to lots of stuff. It's okay.
Oh, Courtney made sure they signed a hold harmless agreement, left her on the doorstep, and was like,
I was like, are you sure? She probably got this from daycare. It's probably highly contagious. Are you sure you still want her?
Okay. See you in a couple days.
Yep. So that is my ultimate parenting hack.
That is incredible.
But my other parenting hack, if you do not live close to your parents, because I know that's not always a thing.
Yeah.
Apple Music has a playlist that is white noise and piano music. And that is our go-to nighttime playlist.
We might have to get that link from you and drop it in the show notes.
Is it part of the early routine?
It is once we get upstairs and we are doing the final bottle and rocking in the dark. That is when.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like you've created this cue, like this like sound
Yes. Like
is what like cues the kids.
Yep. Bedtime sound.
Yes.
Actually, our older daughter has a kid's Alexa in her room. So she knows that when we tell Alexa to play Disney for 10 minutes, then that means that's her cue to start winding down.
Oh.
So music has been a big cue in our bedtime routines. So that's my other parenting hack.
My brother and sister-in-law do that too. Like they have an Alexa that's like for their 4-year-old, and it's like become part of the routine.
Yes.
Like she knows that once this starts, that she's got this many minutes, and it's like the transitions are more seamless.
Wow.
And I'm real jealous that I gave birth to my kids like 15
Before Alexa?
years. Like that would have been real nice.
We're still accepting hot tips. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can set up like a whole bedtime routine on it.
Maybe we should try that on our middle schoolers and report back.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Science.
Let's do it.
I'm into it.
Like, listen, anything. Because right now I'm like, it's time for bed. And they're like, yeah. In 5 more minutes. And I'm like, anyway.
Oh, so that doesn't change. Because my 4-year-old does that.
Sorry. Everything's going to be fine, Courtney. Disregard anything we say.
Yeah, no. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's my next question. What is one thing that today if you could hop into a time machine and go back and say to the Courtney of like early 2020, what message do you want that person to know, that other version of yourself to know, or what did you need to hear?
Well, first of all, I would give her a really big hug. Second of all, I would tell her that she is not broken. She's not a failure.
Oh.
She's not a bad mom. She's just dealing with some really crappy circumstances, and that she will get better, and that the baby that isn't stopping screaming right now will turn into a 4-year-old that will make her laugh and will do adorable, hilarious things and will be ridiculously smart and come up with just pure sentences out of nowhere. She asked me about passengers on the school bus the other day, and I'm like, you know the word passengers? Like,
I'm sorry, come again.
And also that even though it seems crazy, because I thought we would probably be one and done for a very long time after what I experienced with my daughter, that she will want to try again, and she will want to have a second baby. And that second baby will, even though he will put her through the ringer, being hospitalized twice for RSV in 6 months.
So rude.
He will be a very chill, very laid back little guy, and he will heal the parts of her that she didn't think could ever be healed again.
Okay.
Because he did. Because there was a part of me that I thought would never, ever, ever heal from that. And just having him, because I did not have postpartum depression after my son was born. I stayed on my medication all the way through my pregnancy. We actually ended up increasing it a little bit near the end because I developed gestational diabetes, and that was horrific. As someone who survives on like macaroni and cheese and Oreos, like that was a really hard time.
It's a damper on your meal planning.
And so I did not have postpartum depression after him. And
yeah,
that experience, I mean, nothing can change what happened in 2020. Nothing can take that away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it helped heal parts of me that I wasn't sure could have ever been healed.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Okay, Danny, pull yourself together so that you can ask the next question.
Courtney.
Danny.
What is one way that you're going to show yourself a little radical love today?
I can't hear you.
Okay, let me get a little closer. How's that?
That works.
Let me get a little bit closer.
Okay.
Okay. This is a different podcast now. Just kidding. This is still the I Am One podcast. Stay with us, folks. Okay. Courtney, tell us, what is one way that you will show yourself a little radical love today?
I will show myself a little radical love today. Well, I actually kind of already did, because I allowed myself to sleep in a little bit because my husband also worked from home today. So he took the kids to daycare this morning, and I slept in a little bit before I had to start working. And that was pretty nice because I was up late watching the Super Bowl.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Radical self-love to me is allowing myself to rest without feeling guilty about it, because I am a type A perfectionist, like checking things off my list person. And so I would always feel guilty for like resting and taking time for myself. So rest is my radical self-love for my perfectionist little brain that's like, you need to be doing 50 million things.
I think that resonates for lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. How do you take your water?
How do I take my water? In my personalized Simple Modern cup.
Ooh.
Oh, snap. That is snazzy. Is that like, is it like purple with like
It is. It's a purple like terrazzo pattern. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Not a Stanley, but this one it has like a little silicone stopper around the straw. So if it gets knocked over, which is my entire life with 2 small children and a cat.
I was going to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't spill.
Between the 2 kids and the cat, just knocking things off in the...
Is it tap water? Is it filtered? Is it
Filtered?
add
from
a
the
little
fridge,
flavor?
Lots of ice.
Oh.
So nice and cold.
Yes.
Courtney likes it cold. You heard it here first. Okay. Listen, if people would like to get a hold of you, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
You can follow me on social media, Facebook and Instagram. I'm Beyond Postpartum Depression on Facebook and at Beyond PPD on Instagram.
Okay, great. We'll put links to those on the show notes for folks to be able to reach out and find you if they want to say hi or pick your brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emily, you want to take us out?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Courtney, first of all, thank you for finding us those many years ago and being like, I want to be a climb leader. Because I think for a lot of people, like that's how this starts is like we go through a thing. It makes us feel terrible. It makes us question who we are and like whether or not we can handle things. And then when we're starting to brush off like the dust of everything, we're like, how do I make this make sense? How do I make this mean something? And we are so glad that you chose the climb as your entry point into PSI.
Mountains also mean a lot to me because one of my favorite quotes is perhaps you've been assigned this mountain to show others it can be moved.
Ooh.
And so knowing that the climb's theme was mountains, like that is also close to my heart. That's also something that resonated with me. So, because that's one of my very favorite quotes.
I love that. So yeah, thank you for finding the climb and for finding us and then for sharing your story because this is how we normalize all of that.
Yes. And I'm happy to have done this. I always talked about before I had a kid, before I went through this, I didn't like public speaking. I didn't like it. I would turn into an absolute mess in like high school and college speech, like absolutely hated it. And now I'm just like, this is like this is no big thing anymore. Like,
yeah. You're like, I've been through like harder things than giving this speech right now. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm very happy to have been here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to the I Am One podcast. Check out today's show notes where we'll drop links to all the important things that we mentioned in this episode. Please consider sharing about I Am One on social media and following and rating our show wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. It only takes a minute of your time and, well, that'll help our collective mission of bringing resources and local support to folks worldwide. From everyone here at PSI, thanks again for listening.